The fire burns lower tonight, but its heart still glows strong. Its light wraps around us like a shawl, the shadows it casts deepening at the edges. Listen closely. Can you feel it? The story hasn't ended, it only shifted, waiting for this moment to return. We are not yet free of dreams, nor of the oracle's riddles. There is still more to see, more to face. And now, the darkness stirs. The dreamer had thought the crystal's visions would fade with time, but they didn't. Instead, they became sharper, more vivid in their periphery. At first, it was only in mirrors or pools of still water. Later, in windows late at night, in the flicker of candlelight, or in the smoke of a doused flame. It was always there, just beneath reality. The flame they carried had not gone out. If anything, it had grown bolder. In the days that followed the oracle's last message, the world itself began to shift. Small things, shadows stretching longer than they should, birds pausing mid-flight for a heartbeat too long, whispers with no speaker. People near the dreamer looked at them with cautious curiosity, as if sensing something had changed but unable to name it. The mark on their skin faded from sight, but not from feeling. One night, as the moon hung low and red above the horizon, the dreamer woke to a silence that was not peace. It was too complete. The sounds of the world had paused. No rustle of wind, no chirp of insects. Just silence, deep and pressing. And within that silence, a new vision called. The dreamer stood once again within a dream, not summoned by the crystal, but drawn by something darker. The air was thick, veiled in mist, the ground soft with ash. The landscape was unlike before. No vivid colors, no shifting forms, just gray, dark, and heavy, a place of waiting, a place of warning. In the center stood a figure, not the oracle. This being was cloaked in shadows, its form ever-changing, eyes like dying stars. It spoke not with words, but with presence, a warning that rang deep inside the dreamer's bones. The trial was near. The veil between worlds had thinned. Beware the creeping dark, a voice finally whispered, from everywhere and nowhere. It does not ask, it takes. The dreamer stepped forward, drawn toward the figure. Around them, the world shifted. The gray grew darker, and the shapes within it began to move. At first they seemed like fog, but then they took form, faces half-remembered, moments of regret, echoes of pain, all drawn from within. Shadows not from outside, but from the dreamer's own past. One by one these memories came alive. A forgotten betrayal, a lie told long ago, a missed chance, a held grudge. Each became a phantom circling closer. The dreamer understood. This was the trial, not of strength, but of self. The shadow did not come to destroy, it came to reflect. The flame given by the oracle was not only a light, it was a mirror. The dreamer faltered. Doubt crept in. Who were they, truly? Had the visions made them more, or merely shown what always was? The pendant around their neck, now warm, pulsed softly, a heartbeat against the chaos. They remembered the oracle's words, "You must see." And so they looked, truly looked. Each shadow that moved toward them they faced, one by one, no denials, no running. And as each was acknowledged, it faded, not with violence, but with understanding. The darkness shrank, not banished, but balanced. The trial was not to defeat the shadow, but to integrate it, to walk forward with the burden and the light both. When the dreamer opened their eyes again, they were back in their room, or so it seemed. But something had shifted. Outside, the stars no longer looked like stars. They shimmered like eyes watching. The world felt more fragile, but also more real. The boundary had been touched, and it had responded. From that night on, the dreamer was not alone. Even in silence, something accompanied them, a presence not of malice, but of witness. The trial had opened something that could not be closed. And in that opening, prophecy had taken root. The village elder knocked on their door at dawn. He carried a scroll sealed in wax, marked with the same symbol that had burned on their skin, a summons. Not from the oracle, from the keepers, the ones who watched the weave of time and shadow. The dreamer, it seemed, had been seen. The scroll spoke of an ancient trial, the veil of shadows, a rite reserved for those who carried the spark and survived the gaze. Only once in a generation was it enacted, and never without consequence. It warned of illusions, of truths wrapped in lies, of trust tested until it broke. And still, it ended with the same line: those who pass will not return as they were. The journey began before the sun rose. The path led through forest and stone, through places where maps gave way to myth. Along the way, the dreamer met others, some silent, some wise, all marked in ways different but resonant. Each had been touched by the veil. Each bore their own flame. Together, they reached the edge of the trial grounds, an ancient ruin swallowed by earth and time. Vines hung like curtains, stones hummed with residual power. The veil waited. Not a wall, but a breath of air, colder than the rest. As each stepped through, they vanished, one by one, until only the dreamer remained. They hesitated, but only for a moment. Then, with heart steady and flame flickering in their palm, they stepped through. Darkness, complete. Not absence of light, but presence of shadow. Here, vision failed. Only feeling remained. And feeling told of movement, around them, within them. The veil was not just a place, it was alive. Memories twisted, time unraveled. They relived moments out of order. The first time they held a dying bird, a mother's distant gaze, a friend's betrayal, a forgotten promise whispered in a storm. Over and over, faster each time. What you run from becomes your prison. What you face becomes your path. The flame in their hand grew brighter. It pulsed with defiance, not against the veil, but against the urge to surrender. And then the shadows began to respond, not shrinking, but bending, curving around the light, forming shapes. A door appeared, wooden, simple, familiar, the one from their childhood home. With trembling hand, the dreamer opened it. Inside, not memory, but possibility. Versions of themselves, kind, cruel, brave, afraid, all waiting, all watching. One stepped forward, scarred, radiant, the one they had glimpsed in the crystal. The dreamer stepped toward them, and, without words, they merged. Suddenly, light, real light. Morning, dew on grass. The veil was behind them. The others emerged too, changed in subtle ways. Eyes older, steps surer. The oracle waited by the path, silent, but her eyes held approval. "You have seen," she said. Now you may begin." The dreamer did not ask what. They already knew. "And here by the fire, I tell you this. The darkness comes not to destroy you, but to invite you, to see, to choose, to become. So when the air grows still and the stars pulse like slow heartbeats, remember this night. Remember the flame, and when you feel the veil brush against your soul, don't run. Step through